If you've been a constant viewer of my channel, you know it's sort of become a running joke that I bash on this play. But seriously, they really messed up and I'm about to roast them. And if you're a constant viewer on my channel, you know it's sort of become a running joke that I bash on this play.
I've never seen the play, but I've read the book twice and absolutely hate the story. It's so unfaithful to the source material.
And we went to see The Cursed Child play. Now obviously you guys know how I felt about that script. It was terrible.
Many of you ask why I don't incorporate the Cursed Child in my Harry Potter character videos. And the reason why is because it just doesn't match up with the story told in the original 7 books.
I absolutely hated the script. You all know that from that video.
I've seen some people defend the Cursed Child, saying that the play makes up for the terrible story. But no, that's not how it works. A terrible story is a terrible story. There's no fixing that. Even if there's a perfect performance from every actor and incredible set pieces.
This story is truly terrible. It doesn't follow any of the rules that Rowling established, and there are just so many problems with it. I've barely scratched the surface here.
The script is written by Jack Thorne, who collaborated with J.K. Rowling, the author of the original series, and John Tiffany. Right off the bat, hearing that Rowling didn't write it makes it a bit iffy for me, especially since Jack Thorne and John Tiffany did most of the work. In the summer of 2016, I decided to give it a shot, and I was let down even more than I thought possible. I personally despise this story. One of the biggest flaws I noticed is actually what the entire story is based on: time turners. They made their appearance in The Prisoner of Azkaban, and Rowling, realizing that they were too complicated and could cause too many plot holes, decided to destroy every single one of them in the Department of Mysteries during the Order of the Phoenix.
After Rowling destroyed all of the time turners and made sure that time travel would not be a factor for the rest of the series, they decided to base an entire story around it.
So the fact that they brought them back and based the whole story on them is absolutely awful. The time turner in this story can go back, but can only keep you there for 5 minutes. And not only is there one time turner, but there are 2 of them.
Then we find out there is another time turner. Oh my god, what is this?
That's right, 2 of the things that have been gone for years. And the second one is only revealed at the end so that Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, and Draco could go back in time and save Albus and Scorpius.
Because again, plot convenience. Why not just change the rules to make your crappy story work? And let me tell you, it still doesn't work.
It literally seems like the writers got Albus and Scorpius stuck in 1981 and said, oh wait, how do we get them out of there? Oh, I know, we can just bring in another time turner. And oh, look at that. Fortunately, this one doesn't have the 5-minute problem. How convenient.
They needed a way to get them back to the present in a hurry, and didn't have the writing skills to come up with another simple way of doing that. Pulling stuff like this out of your ass that has no context with anything we've ever seen before shows how bad these writers are.
In recent years, this book has become even more inconsistent now that we know the origin of these time turners. When they came back to the present, they aged the amount of years they traveled back to the future. So if they traveled 100 years back to the present, they would literally age 100 years, come back, and die on the spot.
So Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Draco, Albus, and Scorpius all leave 1981 and go back to 2023, and this means they all should have aged 42 years. So at this point, Scorpius went back in time on 4 different occasions, and if you add all of that up, he should have aged 126 years. So yeah, he should be dead. Albus should have aged 98 years, and seeing as he was 14 when he did this, he should be 112 years old. So he should be dead too. And seeing as Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, and Draco were all around 41 or 42 years old, going back in time 42 years should have made them 83 or 84 years old when they returned to the present. But nope, they're still in their early 40s.
And some might say that this is a special time turner, but isn't that just so convenient? It once again shows how lazy these writers really are.
Let's just ignore all of the rules Rowling established in 2015, a year before The Cursed Child came out.
The script seems very rushed at times, taking place over the course of many years while being the length of close to The Prisoner of Azkaban page-wise. And taking into account that it's written in script form, it's probably closer to the length of The Philosopher's Stone, the shortest book in the series.
This is last on the list not only because they are the most toxic couple, but because they were made a couple in The Cursed Child. And you all know how I feel about that. It's sort of become a running joke on this channel that I bash on this story. No, but seriously, I hate this book so much.
The book's main villains are Voldemort and Voldemort's daughter, Delphi. Yes, that's right, Voldemort's daughter. This is probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever read in a book. You're telling me that Voldemort had sex?
Excuse me, I have to go and vomit.
What did you think about Voldemort and Bellatrix making her?
I hate that.
Bellatrix eventually becomes pregnant with their daughter Delphi, which in itself is crazy because that means Voldemort and Bellatrix had sex. Another reason why this couple is at the bottom of the list. And she would bear him a child, which of course happened in The Cursed Child. But we don't speak of that garbage. The fact that a lunatic's unreachable desire is a canon point in the Harry Potter series is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
But I'm not counting The Cursed Child as canon, because if we're being honest, it's just awful. Bellatrix never made love to Voldemort, and she never conceived his baby. We can leave that story in the trash where it belongs.
It really blows my mind that this is actually considered canon, and that Rowling approved this. Voldemort's character is based on the fact that he doesn't need anyone and doesn't want anyone. He's okay by himself, and he wants to be by himself. And it's not like he needed or wanted an heir, because at the time that she was conceived, he thought that he would live forever. And now another thing that doesn't match up is that Bellatrix should have been 7 to 8 months pregnant when the trio came to Malfoy Manor. She had the baby right before the Battle of Hogwarts in May, and the Malfoy Manor scene took place during Draco's Easter holiday. So there's no way that she was that pregnant and that they wouldn't say anything. Do you know how big a woman's stomach is when they hit 7 or 8 months pregnant? There's no way that they could have hidden it. And on top of that, the movements that she makes to take down those snatchers would not have been able to be done when she was that pregnant. As ridiculous as this play might seem, it's supposed to be considered canon according to a tweet by J.K. Rowling, but most fans don't consider it canon because it's so unfaithful to the source material.
Which according to Rowling is canon, so I guess I have to add this information. I'm just kidding, it's not canon. We're just gonna make fun of this book.
Personally, after reading it for a second time, which was specifically for this review, and let me tell you, it was not easy to get through it again. I do not consider this play canon, and anyone who's read the original 7 books shouldn't either, because it honestly ruins the series.
I think that The Crimes of Grindelwald is the opposite of The Cursed Child. The Cursed Child is a terrible story with good execution on stage, while The Crimes of Grindelwald is a good story with bad execution on the big screen. This story gives me a headache. It's so poorly thought out. It's clear that these writers don't know the first thing about any of these beloved Harry Potter characters.
Ron is another example of how they don't understand the characters. They give him traits that we never even saw a glimpse of in the original series. They made him a jokester, doing things like sending fart gnomes, giving love potions as gifts, or breaking serious moments with comedy about joke candy. And when he does this stuff, they say, well, Ron's Ron, you know. As if this has been a normal occurrence for many years. This is not at all how the Ron from the original series was. He's supposed to be insecure, jealous but loyal, and a laid-back guy. These are not traits of someone who would all of a sudden turn into a jokester, especially with the insecure trait.
But I think that he is still so different than how he is in the books and movies. Ron was not one who was a funny guy. And you will see that Ron was actually very serious. War really affected him. Losing his brother really affected him. So he was very traumatized by war, by the Battle of Hogwarts. And in the play, he is nothing but a jokester. As I said in my review of the script, they say Ron will be Ron, but that's not Ron.
They made him less like Ron and more like Fred and George.
That's rubbish! That's rubbish, you don't...
And another thing is that they make him an absolute idiot. He raises his wand but points it at himself by accident, uses the flu powder wrong and ends up in the kitchen instead of McGonagall's office, and he steps forward to volunteer to transfigure into Voldemort, but is too stupid to even get the words out and called himself chilled and everyone else intense. Although the chilled part was pretty accurate. But that brings up another question. If the writers knew that he was chilled, why didn't they make him a chill guy like he was supposed to be? This is just once again not our Ron. He's not a jokester and he's not an idiot. In the original series, he might have been lazy when it came to schoolwork and might have made a joke every once in a while, but those traits most certainly do not define him as a character. Cedric Diggory is another character that they've ruined. When Albus and Scorpius go back in time, they save his life by making him lose in the Triwizard Tournament. This makes Cedric live, but in the process makes him become a Death Eater. That's right, a Death Eater, because he didn't win a tournament.
Because Cedric lost the Triwizard Tournament, he was mad and became a Death Eater. I just can't with this book, it's so bad. Kind, sweet Cedric Diggory would never become a Death Eater, especially over something as small as losing a tournament.
This then led him to kill Neville Longbottom, meaning that Neville never killed Nagini, so Voldemort won and took over. The fact that they think that Cedric would be so mad about losing the tournament that he would become a Death Eater is ridiculous. This is Cedric, the modest, good-looking, well-brought-up, smart, athletic, kind young man who had so much going for him. He was kind to everyone and was a Hufflepuff for God's sake. There's no way that a guy like that would be so butthurt about something so small that they would turn evil. His father might have been, but Cedric wasn't like his father. He got embarrassed when his dad made a big deal about him. There's no way that Cedric would throw everything he had away to fight with Voldemort, especially over something as petty as losing a tournament. They missed the mark on his character by so much. It once again makes me question whether or not these writers actually read the original series.
The one thing that really bothered me was, why was Snape alive?
Yes.
Why would Snape be alive because Cedric was a Death Eater?
Everything that happened to Voldemort and Snape and Dumbledore still happened even though Cedric's a Death Eater. So there's no reason why he should be alive.
Albus is the main character in the story, and I honestly cannot identify with him in the slightest. I actually hate the kid. He's such a brat and such a bad son. He's a whiner and is so ungrateful to his parents. Harry tries to give Albus the blanket that he was wrapped in when he was delivered to the Dursleys' doorstep. Albus proceeds to throw it and knock a love potion all over it. This would later be a key point in the plot, but still, he's such a brat for doing that. My biggest problem with the entire script is the way that they portray Harry. He is absolutely ruined in this book. He's a straight up jerk and a terrible father.
I did not think that this was the Harry that was in the books or movies, just like Ron, but I think that they were even more unfaithful to him in this play, mainly because he's always talking about his fame. He is so focused on himself.
Some other inconsistent moments with Harry include him constantly telling stories about how he defeated Voldemort and how he was a hero. He should be the complete opposite of this. It took everything in him to talk about that stuff in the Hog's Head when they were starting the DA, and it was extremely hard for him to recount the events the night that Voldemort returned for the article with Rita Skeeter. Harry is supposed to be very modest.
The truth is, most of that was just luck. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. I nearly always had help.
But here, he acts like a braggy, attention-seeking hero. He even signs autographs, something that the Harry from the original books would never do.
In the Chamber of Secrets, there's this one scene that demonstrates this perfectly. After Draco made a big deal about Colin Creevey asking Harry for a signed photo, and Lockhart made it worse by making it a double portrait signed by both of them, Harry sped away and went to class, where he sat in the back of the classroom not wanting to interact with anybody, and Ron said that his face was so red he could fry an egg on it. Then, when Ron joked about Colin and Ginny starting a Harry Potter fan club, Harry angrily told him to shut up. That sure doesn't seem like someone who enjoyed being famous.
In The Cursed Child, he's acting more like Lockhart than himself, which is absolutely terrible. They destroyed our favorite hero and made him a completely different, shallow, self-obsessed person. In the script, he has qualities that would never show up if they were faithful to the source material. One line that really struck me as completely out of character was when he said to Albus, "There are times I wish you weren't my son." The Harry we know would never say this. This is honestly the worst thing that a parent could ever say to their child. We don't want our hero depicted in this awful way. This one line ruins Harry for me, and I'm sure it does for many others as well. He's a jerk in many other ways too. The worst thing was his treatment of Professor McGonagall, someone who we always respected and looked up to. But here, he has no respect for her. He tells her that she doesn't understand because she doesn't have children, something that's an extremely sensitive topic for McGonagall, and it even says in the script that she was deeply hurt by these words. He then threatens her, saying that she has to keep Albus and Scorpius apart, and that if she doesn't, he'll bring the school down. The school that he loved, the school that was his escape as a boy.
Welcome home.
He then rudely cuts Ginny off and says, "The professor knows what I mean," disrespecting his wife and once again McGonagall. The professor? Are you kidding me? The Harry that we know would treat these two with nothing but respect, but in this script, he does the complete opposite. And I've seen people say that this specific encounter only happened because Albus and Scorpius changed time. But later on, Scorpius says that the only thing that didn't change was Harry. So even if time didn't change, he would still have acted like this. Later on, his relationship with Ginny is messed up even more. Harry's talk with Albus made him run away. Ginny immediately assumes that it was Harry that made him do this. And with good reason, as she brings up his anger problem and how he gets heated. She says with accusation in her voice, "What did you say to our son, Harry?" It then gets even worse when Ginny says that she can forgive one or two of his mistakes, but the more he makes mistakes, the harder it is for her to forgive him. Once again, this is not the Harry that we know. In the original series, he of course got angry every once in a while, but it was mostly when Voldemort was in his head, and if not that, it was in extreme circumstances. But the Harry from the original books would never get heated from a conversation with someone that he loved. And the thing about Ginny and Harry having marital problems is not really a problem. Every couple struggles. But it bothers me because in this case, all of their problems are based on the things that Harry from the original series would never have done. It's only this terrible, cursed child version of Harry that would do these things that got Ginny so upset and made her question their marriage. There are many other things that are inconsistent with this Harry and the Harry that we all know and love. In one scene, he says to Dumbledore's painting that he doesn't need him, and that Dumbledore was never there for him when it counted, and that he fought Voldemort alone 3 times without his help. This could not be more wrong. Pretty much every time Harry fought Voldemort, Dumbledore was there for him in some way. In the Philosopher's Stone, he ran in and saved Harry's life when both he and Quirrell were about to die. In the Chamber of Secrets, Dumbledore's Phoenix arrived, made sure that the Basilisk couldn't kill Harry by taking its eyes out, and then provided Harry with the Sorting Hat, which revealed the Sword of Gryffindor, which Harry used to kill the Basilisk.
So this is what Dumbledore sends his great defender. A songbird and an old hat.
In the Order of the Phoenix, he stops Voldemort from going after Harry completely by stepping in himself, holding Harry back while he fights Voldemort. And after he makes Voldemort flee and Voldemort goes inside Harry's body, he helps Harry fight him and get him out.
Harry, it isn't how you are like. It's how you are not.
In the Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore speaks with him before the final fight, helping Harry understand how to defeat Voldemort once and for all. And let's not forget all of the training he gave Harry throughout the Half-Blood Prince, preparing him for that moment. Harry only faced Voldemort and Iffy twice without Dumbledore's help, once in the Goblet of Fire.
I'm going to kill you, Harry Potter. I'm going to destroy you.
And once during the Battle of the Seven Potters, which was a pretty brief encounter, and some might not even count. Dumbledore was almost always there for him when it counted, so that line is complete BS.
That was fun.
He also blames Dumbledore for Albus leaving because of the advice that Dumbledore gave him. Yet again, another inconsistent trait with Harry's character. Harry is not a blamer. He's a character that gets swallowed by his own self-pity because he blames everything on himself.
It's my fault.
He also gets mad at Dumbledore for sending him to the Dursleys, but by the end of the 7 books, it's clear to Harry that Dumbledore did that to protect him and to keep his mother's charm alive. He understood that he had to go back in the Half-Blood Prince and the Deathly Hallows, and understood why. There's no way that he would hold a grudge against Dumbledore for this, because he protected him there for 16 years, and he knew it had to be done. Now, I feel I have to talk about Hermione's casting. They casted a black woman to play her, which shocked many fans and outraged a few.
Of course, this wouldn't be the first time she contradicted herself or changed the source material, like making Hermione black, when clearly in the book it said that she was white.
One thing that really bothered me was that this book completely contradicted the final line of the 7th book, where it said that Harry's scar didn't hurt him anymore, and that all was well. And now all of a sudden, his scar hurts again, and the threat of Voldemort is coming right back. Harry also lost the ability to speak Parseltongue when the Horcrux inside of him was destroyed, and now all of a sudden, he has that ability again.
And some weird stuff happens where Harry turns into Voldemort and somehow speaks Parseltongue, even though he lost that ability when the Horcrux inside of him was destroyed, so it's not there anymore and he shouldn't have that power.
It's another lazy writer's tool. There's no explanation for why he's able to do it again, other than for convenience sake. And yet, another flaw in this is that Harry could only speak Parseltongue because he had part of Voldemort's soul in him. But that piece of the soul was destroyed during the Battle of Hogwarts when Voldemort tried to kill Harry. So even if Voldemort is coming back and he's having dreams with Voldemort, that doesn't mean that he can all of a sudden speak Parseltongue. He needs to have the Horcrux inside of him to do that.
And if we take a look at the Cursed Child, which in my opinion is complete garbage, but Rowling said it's canon, so in the play we see Delphi, Voldemort's daughter, disarm Harry. So according to the rules of Harry Potter established by JK, Voldemort's daughter is now the owner of the most powerful wand in the world.
It sounds like a 12-year-old wrote this script, finished it, didn't look it over, and said, here's my final copy. And the fact that the villain is based around Voldemort is just so unoriginal. We've seen and heard about him 7 times. We don't need it again. If you're going to make a new story, make a new villain.
I am very interested to see, like, Harry Potter always is very fantastic and, like, very good show-wise and, like, visually. So, like, that's what I'm expecting from this play. But, like, I just know that the story is absolute crap.
A lot of the dialogue in the script once again shows that the writers don't understand these characters. In one line, when Cedric is told to finish the 3rd task in the maze, he says, "Then I shall." This threw me off so much and completely took me out of the story. That is not how Cedric, or even a kid, would talk. Hell, I don't even think my grandma would talk like that. It sounds like a line from Shakespeare. It doesn't belong in a Harry Potter book. Another line that seemed out of place was when Hermione says, "I'm afraid you're right, my old friend." Hermione would never say old friend. That sounds like a line that Dumbledore would say. Again, it completely took me out of the story and made me once again question the writer's intelligence. There's an extremely awkward line said by Scorpius saying, "My geekiness is a quivering." I cringe every time I read that. I'm sure you even just cringed when I said that. These writers don't understand the basic concept of writing the right dialogue for the right character. And honestly, it seems like they don't even have a basic understanding of how people talk in real life.
She is a very good writer, especially for Harry Potter, and having her back in the writer's chair was something that had to be done if it's Harry Potter related. We learned that from The Cursed Child.
At the end of the script, Hermione tells Delphi, Voldemort and Bellatrix's daughter, "You'll go to Azkaban, same as your mother." This again shows terrible writing. This time not because of the dialogue itself, although it could be improved on a bit, but because it's so misleading. It sounds like Hermione saying that Bellatrix is there now, but no, we all know that she's dead. It's terribly written. If I didn't know Bellatrix was dead already, based on that line, I would think that she was still alive and was currently being held as a prisoner. And how did this get past Rowling? I'm starting to think that she didn't even read it over and just gave it the stamp of approval to get the big bucks.
So I know that you had a problem with the Sorting Hat.
Yeah, it wasn't the Sorting Hat. Why would they have a bowler hat like that? Is that an allusion to Fudge? Because I didn't like him.
They also made Hermione the Minister for Magic. This I feel is a bit out of place. I can see her working in the ministry for sure, especially for house elves, but I don't think that she would want to be Minister for Magic. If you've only seen the films, then you've seen a different version of Hermione than the book version. In the films, Emma Watson plays her as a very confident, pretty, and semi-popular girl. But in the books, she's very shy, not very confident, not that good looking, having wild hair and buck teeth, and a lot of people roll their eyes whenever she walks into a room. So I can see the movie version of Hermione being Minister, but I can't see the book Hermione taking on that role. One of the craziest and most ridiculous scenes in the script was the trolley lady scene. They turned the trolley lady on the Hogwarts Express into a monster placed on the train to prevent students from escaping.
Anything off the trolley, dears?
Why they thought this would be a good idea, I don't know, but it yet again ruins another part of the Wizarding World for me.
To be honest, I wish that we could have seen more of Teddy, but instead we got this pile of garbage.
Some other bad moments in the script include Delphi sneaking into Hogwarts and saying that the security in the school was lax. The Hogwarts security is probably the best security in the Wizarding World. Hagrid even said this in The Philosopher's Stone.
Gringotts, the Wizard Bank. Take no safer place, except perhaps Hogwarts.
This is yet again another convenient circumstance that the writers made to get Delphi into Hogwarts without any explanation of how she did it. It's just lazy writing. Another thing is Harry having a dream of the future, which ultimately comes true. This is not once how his dreams or connection with Voldemort worked in the original series. He could only see what was going on in the present. Are they mixing this story up with Star Wars? It literally seems like these writers skimmed the original books and said, okay, now let's write this script.
So hopefully you enjoyed my ranting about The Cursed Child, because I'm always crapping on this book. I've done it in so many videos, and I just felt like I had to give you guys some proof on what I'm talking about and why I hate it so much.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on Instagram to see more of my personal life, like my cute dog Loki, and some behind the scenes Movie Flame stuff. I also do similar content on TikTok and Twitter that I do here on this channel, so if you like what I do here, check them out. All the handles are right below me, and links are in the description. Over here are my wonderful patrons. If you want to be featured on the next video, plus get a few other perks, become a patron today. As always, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great Movie Flame videos on the way.